Okay, so guys, we have a lot to work on today, tomorrow. So please make sure we are being as productive as possible. So by the end of this period, your script needs to be turned in. Now, you made a copy of the script, so one of you in your group needs to turn it in. So you go to my classroom, you go to the assignment that says Wednesday's classwork, turn in here. That is where you will submit your script document. Okay, only one of you in the pod has to do this. It should take you the entire period. However, if you finish early, there is plenty to work on. Okay? You need to create your technological aid that you're going to use during your presentation. Many of you are resorting to Google Slides, and that's perfect. Okay? If you are planning to record this outside of school, you can, but remember, it is due first thing on Friday. So here is an example of a technological aid. So I created a slide. Okay? So as the presentation is commencing, I'm going to put up the slides on the projector. So here is the slides. I'm going to read to you my dialogue. Now, granted, I'm making up this dialogue as I go, okay? But the dialogue that I'm saying during this presentation is the dialogue you should be writing on your script document. What goes on this aid? This is just basic historical facts that should be on your guided notes that your classmates are copying down, okay? So I'm going to go through the presentation. Here is my show. Again, what I'm saying, this is the dialogue. So the Qin Dynasty Show, brought to you by Miss O'Brien and sponsored by the Chinese government. So I'm going to introduce you to our expert on the Qin Dynasty, Miss O'Brien, and Miss O'Brien is going to give you as much facts as she can about the history of this dynasty. A little background, Miss O'Brien graduated from Valparaiso University, and she's now a teacher at Couts Middle School, and she's here to inform you about the Chinese dynasty. So, Miss O'Brien, go ahead. Well, thank you, other Miss O'Brien, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to give you a little background on the history of the Qin Dynasty. So to start, the Qin Dynasty started around 221 BC, and they roughly ended in 207 BC. Now, you're thinking, that looks like they're going back in time. Remember, BC, it goes backwards. So technically, they lasted for about roughly 14 years. Okay, but during those 14 years, they had two emperors. So Qin Shi Huang, I wonder where they got the Qin Empire from, right? Probably from his name. And then his son, Hu He. Okay, and during this dynasty, as Qin Shi Huang started to die off, there were massive rebellions. Okay, so his son Hu He had to try to stop these rebellions as best he could, but obviously was unsuccessful because the dynasty ended roughly 14 years later. However, one major achievement during this history was the building of the Great Wall of China. So the Qin dynasty really started that legacy of creating a massive wall to keep invaders out from, more specifically, Mongolia, the northern Mongolians. Need a wall built? Well, do not worry. The Qin Dynasty has one for you. You need roughly 5,500 miles long of a wall. No need to fear. The Chinese Qin Dynasty is here. Call 1-800-CHINESE-WALL. So that's an example of my history segment, which is right here. Here's my introduction, my history segment, and then my transition or my commercial. Now, again, there's not a lot of information directly on this slide. It's in my dialogue, which is written on my script. Okay, so this is what I am looking for, something very, very similar to this. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. Remember, your dialogue is due at the end of the period. These slides are not due, just the dialogue. Okay? Good luck, guys. Have fun.